If there's ever somebody sitting right here that tells you nerves weren't a part of it, they're clearly lying. I mean, it's the main thing of what we do as a professional sport is controlling what goes through your mind.
Eventually, this won't sound ridiculous, but until then, bear with me. One of the hardest things about playing golf is that we have brains. Silly, I know. We need our brains to play golf. They control our muscles, which allow us to swing a club. And yet, think about what is the easiest shot in the game. It's the one that doesn't count, as in the hole is over, so you roll a mindless 6-footer, one-handed, off balance, right into the cup. Or there's a range ball on the fairway, and if no one's looking, you step up and hit it pure into the woods. There are no metrics for these meaningless shots, but we always seem to hit them great, which leads to that age-old golfer question, why can't I do that all the time? The answer is in those words I used just seconds ago. Meaningless, mindless. In other words, we're not thinking the way we normally think. And that's the thing about our brains. Its primary function is not to help you shoot even par. It's to keep you fed and safe and to help you make connections to others, all stemming from the things humans first needed to survive. But these functions also influence how we play golf, and that's what we're going to talk about in this video. The hardwiring of our own operating system and how it shows up on the golf course in ways we don't even realize. You'll hear from experts on the brain as well as golfers like Rory McIlroy and Ben Griffin who explain how they deal with these same challenges and the tactics they use to combat them. What you'll find is we can't get around needing our brain, but we can better understand how it works. Because once you know that, then you can learn how to keep it from getting in your way. So let's start with a basic distinction. What is the difference between this putt and this putt?
Oh my goodness.
Physically, the answer is nothing. Same distance, same break, same sized hole. The requirements of the task are exactly the same. The difference is based on what's perceived to be at stake, because then our conscious mind takes over. There's a helpful way to think about this. It comes from a sports psychologist, Brett McCabe. Suppose you're on the ground floor of a building, and there's a balcony, and you stand up on the railing. It's not that big of a deal. Now imagine you're on the 50th floor of a building, and there's a balcony, and you stand up on that railing. In both cases, you're doing the exact same thing, but in the second one, your brain signals fear. Heart racing, palms sweaty. It's an unpleasant feeling, but it's the type of unpleasant feeling that prevents us from standing on the railing of 50th floor balconies. To be clear, in all of these scenarios, the brain is essential. We can't function without it. But as it relates to rolling a ball into the cup, some parts are more immediately helpful than others. For instance, it's your brain telling your eyes to look at the green and survey the shot. And it's your brain telling your arms to pull the club back and stroke the ball at this precise speed. But what else is happening in that second putt? Your brain is factoring in context. It's evaluating what it would mean to miss, and this is why you feel different. Again, heart racing, sweaty palms. We know this is our fight or flight response, the same one that kicks in when standing on a railing 50 floors above. Or maybe the kind you'd need if you were standing over a putt and suddenly a grizzly bear appeared. But remember, this is just a putt. There's no real danger here. So what are we trying to protect against? Dr. Jeremy Jamieson is a professor of psychology at the University of Rochester and a leading researcher on stress. And he says this is almost a glitch in our operating system because our brains aren't just accounting for physical danger.
If you think about the evolutionary past, our brains, our stress systems, they really evolved to deal with things that were 20,000 years ago about. And so we're kind of catching up still in the evolution. So a lot of the stressors were physical things, something could harm me. And so your stress response is about taking care of that thing that could harm you.
The way Jamieson describes our stress systems is like if your house was on fire one day and your Wi-Fi was out the next, and both times resulted in guys with axes busting down your door. The response doesn't always seem to fit, which is different than saying there isn't a reason. That's because our brains are also scanning for what we might describe as social threats, judgment, ridicule, disappointment. This is why a simple putt or an opening tee shot can trigger a stress response, because we're hardwired to protect against those as well.
Oh, you gotta be shitting me. Sorry, Al.
You're good.
The classic explanation for this is the psychologist Abraham Maslow's hierarchy of needs, which he published in the 1940s. The famous pyramid looks like this. What Maslow argued is that our needs extend beyond the basic stuff found at the bottom, like food or shelter or safety. Humans need more because we're also wired to value relationships and to crave acceptance and respect. In other words, we're not just looking to survive, but to thrive. So where does golf fit into this? Well, in the same way standing on the railing of a balcony would feel different on the first floor versus the 50th floor, the same scenarios in golf will trigger different reactions from one person and even one day to the next. Sometimes the response makes perfect sense. Maybe this is your career and the shot has real consequences in terms of money or job security. Maybe it's the difference between being celebrated or vilified.
First and foremost, I try to ask myself why I have the nerves. It's important to ask yourself those questions. It kind of can calm you down a little bit. But some things I noticed for my body, I definitely sometimes feel like the club gets lighter, a touch lighter, and also my legs can feel a bit heavier. It can kind of maybe affect your feel a touch.
And this is not just for pro golfers. For instance, Frankie Borelli had a reason to be nervous. He's a Barstool Sports personality who had a chip worth $1 million in the Internet Invitational. He's not a professional golfer, but the moment he was faced with pro golfer level pressure, the result is about as bad as you'd expect.
Oh my God.
Sit! Oh my God. Sit! I did the thing. I bladed it.
Your neck kind of tenses up. You can feel your heartbeat. You can almost hear it. And it's just that pulsating feeling. It's pulsating. And everything, like your blood is all going. You can feel it all pumping at the same time as your heart. And you're just like, you feel it tingling in your fingers. You're like, how is this happening? Why can't we just take a deep breath and relax?
But even that's an extreme example because Borelli said he can get nervous playing for almost nothing at all. This happens to me too. It doesn't even have to be in a tournament or for a $10 Nassau. There are no real stakes in most of the golf I play, but for whatever reason I care, and now I'm nervous. Why? Go back to Maslow's pyramid. Jim Murphy is an author and a performance coach who works with a number of PGA Tour players.
Okay, our greatest need as humans is to be loved and accepted. And we have an ego that's always threatened, always comparing, never satisfied. And so the fear, especially now with social media, the fear is that if I miss this putt, if I perform poorly, get a bad score, you're gonna get your greatest fear in some amount, which is rejection.
So let's review what we know. We know that our stress response is designed to either galvanize or protect us. And as strange as it sounds, we occasionally need protection from the crushing disappointment of missing a 3-foot putt.
Disappointment from Ben Griffin, who cannot force that playoff.
The next question, is this a problem? Well, put it this way, it doesn't need to be. The stress our body feels in certain states is neither good nor bad, but just a fact. If you recall my last video, I discussed how even Tiger Woods sought to account for how his system would change from one day to the next. He didn't spend much time wondering why he was nervous or telling himself that he shouldn't be. He just recognized it as a reality that he needed to accept. That's the helpful way to think about stress. It's what's known as a challenge-type stress response, and it's a way of priming our bodies for the biggest moments. The wrong way to handle it goes like this. You are nervous and your heart starts to race. So what do? You tell yourself to calm down. You tell yourself, don't be ridiculous, this is just golf. You start to judge the way you feel, and the implication is you can't handle this. And this is when things can go sideways. Here's Frankie Borelli again.
During the Internet Invitational finale, I kept telling myself, stop being nervous, because I felt like it was taking away from how well I was playing. The more I told myself not to get nervous, the more nervous I got.
If you could only take one thing away from this video, it's this. The worst way to handle nerves is to treat them like a problem that needs to go away. Not only does it not work, it actually makes things worse. This can be referred to as the second arrow, as in the first arrow is your original feeling you can't control, but the second one is your reaction to that feeling, and it often ends up being even more destructive. As experts say, the presence of stress isn't a problem until we interpret it to mean we're overmatched. Because then we go into a deeper protection mode. Psychologists say it's our body preparing for damage and defeat, which is also why people get cold feet.
Some people get stressed about the idea of being stressed. Like that concept of and then the only way I can do well is if I get rid of this stress. And so now you're spending time, you're spending energy, spending resources on just trying to get rid of your stress response when you don't need to. It's something that's there to help you.
Right.
So it's how you perceive what this is. Like, is this something that's fueling me or is it something that's hindering me? Even in putting, even like in fine motor things, seeing that stress response as an ally, not as something like, so like where you can see that as this is improving my focus. This is getting oxygen to my brain so I can read this putt better.
So, the first step when feeling nerves on the golf course is just to accept them as part of the deal. You might not enjoy the feeling, but they're there for a reason, and the less you push against them, the easier they are to manage. You can also get out in front of them. Think about football teams that pump in crowd noise during practices, which they do to acclimate to the chaos of competition. The golf version of this is to try to manufacture discomfort wherever you can because it gives you a sense of how your body is going to react under pressure. For Ben Griffin, for instance, he knows where his miss is under pressure, which allows him to make adjustments in the moment.
I know my tendencies under pressure. I have a tendency to miss it a touch to the right off the tee and maybe iron shots as well. So I'll consciously set up a little bit more to the left sometimes under pressure. It definitely is situational depending on where pin placements are and everything and what's kind of out there, but that's a small thing I've noticed. But no, I try to just stick to what I've learned from when I've been nervous. What are my tendencies? How can I best avoid those tendencies and just focus on executing good shots?
This is why some people like playing for money, but it can be as simple as making part of your practice sessions competitive enough to be stressful. And by the way, plug alert, Golf Digest has devised a series of these games called stress tests for this very reason, and you can check them out in the link below. This type of preparation allows you to develop tools for how to handle nerves in the moment. You might have heard performance coaches discuss breath work or putting your hand on your chest the way Keegan Bradley does here, or scanning the horizon, both of which can be effective in settling your nervous system. There's another tactic that Rory McIlroy touches on here.
If you're trying to overcome anxiety or nerves around performance, I do try to think about, well, what's the worst that could happen? I'm not going to die on the golf course. Imagining like the worst case scenario gave me a level of comfort because I felt like any worst case scenario that I could bring up in my head, I'll be able to deal with.
What Rory is talking about is zooming out, and it's effective for the very reason he describes. In the big moments, the tendency is to think the outcome is all that matters. But zooming out or disengaging is a reminder that it's not. If you were to look down at yourself from above, you'd see there is no grizzly bear attacking you. Even if you miss, life will go on.
They do this a lot with people who experience high levels of anxiety in different kinds of settings, like really getting yourself disengaged. I know it sounds unusual, like if you want to try to reduce stress, like if you don't engage with something, you don't experience stress. And what it does is it tends to reduce like the meaning of a failure to you. And so if you're immersed in something, it's like, this means everything right now, this moment. If I can see myself from a more third person objective standard, I'm going to sort of the meaning becomes less intense.
Just remember, if you're nervous over a golf shot, no matter how unimportant it might seem, that doesn't mean something's wrong with you. It just means you're human and you care. It means you have a brain, which, fair to say, is better than the alternative. And the more you understand what it's trying to do, the more you can let it work for you when you need it.
Nice bird. Thanks.
Thank you for watching. If there are topics on the mental game that you would like us to cover next, let us know in the comments below.